jebe geng tarpa dan tam je kempe bardu chopra jeba tam je ge su jebe ma nang ka dang nyam pe sen chen tam je dewa tang ten tung yao dang zhe ne zhe la na me pa yang dang pra zo be chan chu ren po je to par je da la dang wa je be zha no par je be geng tarpa dan tam je kempe bardu chopra jeba tam je ge su jebe ma nang ka dang nyam pe sen chen tam je dewa dan den tung yao dang zhe ne zhe la na me pa yang dang pra zo be chan chu ren po je to pra je da la dang wa je be zha no par je be ge tarpa dan tam je kempe bardu chopra jeba tam je ge su je be ma nang ka dang nyam pe sen chen tam je de wa dan de dung yao dang zhe ne de la na me pa yang tam pra zo be chan ju ren po je to par je de je de sang ma ge gi bar de long a yi sum ge wa la go ma shi bar de long a yi sum ge wa la go de de re ne so de ne ma san da sam gi bar de long a yi sum ge wa la go san je jo dan so ge jo nam la chan chu bar de da ne gyap su ji da ge jin so ge be so nang ge do la pen che san je dro bro jo san je jo da chanchu badu dane kyabzu je dage jinsu gebe sonange dola penche sanje drupra shu sanje jodan sake jonam la chanchu badu dane kyabzu je dage jinsu gebe sonange dola penche sanje drupra shu sanje jodan sake jonam la chanchu badu dane kyabzu je dage jinsu gebe sonange drola penche sanje drupra shu ma nang ka dan nyam pe sen chen tam je dewa dang dewe gyun dan den pra gyu ji dung ya dang dung ya gi gyu dan drava gyur ji dung ya me pe dewa dang me drava ju ji ne ring cha da ni dang drava dang nyang la ne pra gyu ji ma nang ka dang nyam pe sen chen tam je dewa dang dewe gyun dan den pra gyur ji dung ya dang dung ya gi gyu dan drava gyur ji dung ya me pe dewa dang me drava gyur ji ne ring cha da ni dang drava dang nyang la ne pra gyur ji ma nang ka dang nyang pe sen chen tam je dewa dang dewe gyun dan den pra gyur ji dung ya dang dung ya gi gyu dan drava gyur ji dung ya me pe dewa dang me drava gyur ji ne ring cha da ni dang drava dang nyang la ne pra gyur ji. Now the 7-branch puja. In all the worlds of the 10 directions reside Tathagatas of the 3 times. Before each of you, lions among humans, I prostrate joyfully with body, speech, and mind. By the power of this aspiration to noble deeds, all conquerors appear vividly in my mind. With as many bodies as there are atoms in all lands, I prostrate to all you conquerors. In each atom are Buddhas numberless as atoms, all in the midst of the heirs of the Buddhas. Thus I conceive of this Dharma Dhatu as completely filled with you conquerors in this way, with infinite oceans of praise and oceans of diverse melodies. I sing the excellent qualities of all you conquerors, and praise all of you gone to bliss, with the best flowers and best garlands, best music, ointments, and excellent parasols, finest lamps and superior incense. I offer to you conquerors, with excellent garments and best fragrances, and sandalwood powder heap high as Mount Meru, all wondrous offerings perfectly arranged. I offer to you, conquerors, these vast and unequal offerings to each and every one of you. Conquerors, with the power of conviction in noble deeds, I prostrate and offer to all you conquerors all the harmful deeds that I have done with my body, speech, and mind, under the power of desire, hatred, and ignorance. I confess each and every one of them. I rejoice in all the meritorious deeds of all conquerors in the 10 directions and the heirs of the Buddha, solitary realizers, hearers still in training and beyond, and all wandering beings, you who are lamps of the worlds of the 10 directions, who have unobstructedly attained Buddhahood through the stages of Bodhi. All you who are my protectors, please turn the unexhaled wheel of Dharma. With palms together, I earnestly beseech you who may intend to manifest final nirvana. Please remain for as many eons as there are atoms in the world, for the happiness and well-being of all wandering beings. Whatever slight virtue that may have been gathered through prostrating, offering, confessing, rejoicing, requesting, and beseeching, I now dedicate to complete Bodhi. So je bogi ju she me do dram ri ra lin she ni de gen pa de san je shin du ming de bulwa ye jogu nam da shin la ge war sho gu sun yong so la me zo nam la chi nang san sum de shin ni ge jo da lu long ju nang si yong she la la me jo gi ngor de zel du so jo so wa dang jo jing sha ba da Jizi yirang kushing sowa yin ge wa chung se dagi chi sao kwa tam che so pe chan chu chirngu om guru dewa dhaki ni rana mandala prati cha so Samche namki sampada lo yi jitra jita wa jechun tumung tepa yi jogi kolo koridu so. Durje chamban tele naroda Amitabha parije den gongka den sun den sawe la me sha sa ju la ma yi dam chogyong la so wa de so da ki chen ju lo kya den ki do me sam den gen da pa don sun yong la kya so me kya wa durje chang pa ji den kum pa sha la de ta to sam kya kya le me jin ji lo ji tu je je nen ge me pa se ne kya sen do de do do pra jen ju lo hong we jen yu ji ne chang sam pa ma kya sa dong po la ya san chogyong ga dum ne Pema june she shudra kodu kandu mampu koro keki jesu dhadru ge jenji loji she su su Guru pema se de ho men chokin yeke potane de sun sanje kungi ngomo ni Ransen chokun ngon sun ton se pa tsawe la me shabla so wa de So now we continue with chapter 5, starting from verse 55. So remember that from verses 34 to 58, this is the section that Khenpo Kumpel has identified as summarizing one of the three areas of discipline that bodhisattvas should discipline themselves in. So what are these three disciplines? These three disciplines are the discipline of giving up unskillful actions. So this section from 34 to 58 are very specific, sometimes seemingly kind of minor. But we already discussed, don't underestimate the minor things that he's pointing out. And also, no need to so literally to feel like, you need to follow exactly, literally. But the principles, especially. Then as we apply the principles, then more and more we get better and better. So that even one day you might find that, oh, literally, I am, following what he's saying. Anyway, this section 34 to 58 is the discipline of restraining ourselves from creating negativity. So the first of the three disciplines. The second discipline is the discipline of engaging in that which is skillful and that which is virtuous. And the third discipline is the discipline of benefiting other beings. Some of you might notice that this is a variation of another set of three, a very common one, a very basic, fundamental, basic in the sense of fundamental, where the Buddha famously said, to refrain from all negativity, to engage in all virtues, and to subdue or to control the mind, to purify the mind. This is the teaching of all Buddhas. So these three Bodhisattva disciplines is a variation of that theme, right? The third one being to subdue the mind. Here, in the context of Bodhisattva discipline, we say to benefit beings. Then, of course, as Kyopa Jigten Sumgun often points out, he says, the best thing that right now we can do to benefit other beings is to subdue our own minds. Because it's our minds that is causing harm to ourselves and to other beings. So if we don't restrain or subdue this unruly mind, so here we're not talking about nature of mind, those sorts of teachings. We're talking about the mind that leads us into trouble. He says, the best thing you can do if you want to benefit other beings, you start with subduing your own mind. because this mind right now is unruly, immature, and doesn't want to cooperate. But then when it has created suffering, then it comes back and complain and cry and blaming you. The word subdue or tame, sometimes translated as tame, it has that range of meanings: subdue, tame, overcome. Although it might sound really harsh, as a footnote, right? In terms of training the mind, sometimes we need to be stern, sometimes we need to be soft, sometimes we need to encourage it, sometimes we need to threaten it. So please notice, right? Even though the language is to tame, to subdue, there are many, many ways, many, many different approaches we have to take depending on the situation. Then in a progressive, gradual approach to training that is emphasized by Shantideva here, earlier on when we took the Bodhisattva vow in chapter 3, it says, I will train in this progressively, meaning you build up your strength. You don't simply just jump in and try to do the impossible from day one. You build up over time. So in this progressive approach, it is emphasized that although having taken the Bodhisattva vow, we should engage in these 3 disciplines. Right now, for us beginner Bodhisattvas, it is the first one that we should pay more attention to, which is restraining ourselves from creating negativity, restraining ourselves, stopping ourselves from feeding those habits that are productive of suffering. So primarily, that's what we should be focused on as beginning Bodhisattvas. Because right now, when things are still kind of fragile, then our negative actions of body, speech, and mind can easily derail us, including derailing us. That means pushing us off in the areas of like creating good and benefiting beings. So if we don't focus mostly on preventing negativity from arising, creating negativity, if we are too excited, we say, oh, I want to do good, I want to benefit beings. Not being careful about the first discipline of restraining ourselves, body, speech, and mind from creating negative karma. That negative karma can destroy even the virtue that we're trying to build and the benefit that we're trying to bring to others. in some commentarial traditions, they even say that the discipline of benefiting beings, you cannot really, you're not able, not cannot as in somebody tries to stop you. In Buddhism, we don't have something like that, you know. Somebody tries to stop you, God says stop. No, no, no. Cannot means you're not really able to truly benefit beings until you have reached the path of seeing in terms of the 5 paths, the path of accumulation, the path of joining, the third, the path of seeing, which corresponds to at least the first Bodhisattva Bhumi. So until you have achieved the path of seeing, in some commentarial traditions, they say that the discipline of benefiting beings will be very limited. Now, to me, this is not saying, you know, oh, don't bother to help others. You know, somebody calls and say, hey, can you help, you know, babysit my kids? I need to go do something. Oh, no, I'm not on the path of seeing yet. Sorry. Or the thing that is dreaded by many of us who live in the US especially, because people in the US are always moving all the time, is a friend calling and say, can you help me move, you know? Oh, sorry, I'm not on the path of seeing. I cannot help. To say that, you know, until we are on the path of seeing, we cannot really benefit beings. For me, what that is saying to me is it, 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 it reminds me to be humble about what I think I'm doing to help other beings. Because I know, you know, oh, I'm not on the path of seeing yet. So then, you know, whatever people think I'm doing to benefit others, whatever I think I'm doing to benefit others, you don't get carried away. You understand that as long as you have not seen, so what is the path of seeing, that seeing referring to? As long as you have not yet seen the emptiness of inherent existence, as long as you have not directly perceived that truth, then you cannot really truly help others in the sense of help them move towards enlightenment in a decisive way. There's a raised hand. Yeah.
Is it also not because we have no ability to see the perhaps consequences of our actions, because good intentions can really go awry often?
Yeah, sure. But here, that one is a higher requirement. That one is 8 bhumi. Just first bhumi is, you know, yeah, that one is a higher requirement. It says, if you're not on the 8th bhumi, you cannot really see that well, Then compared to Buddhas, even 10th bhumi bodhisattvas cannot see all the causes and effects that are going on. So that requirement is not what's emphasized here. But yeah, the overall point to me is like, it's like don't get carried away and don't become so confident in thinking, oh, I'm helping them, because there's a lot of obscurations that needs to be removed before we can be effective in helping others. See, not being able to see the ins and outs of karma, right, is a problem, is an obstacle for even 10th bhumi bodhisattvas. Not being able to see all the precise ins and outs of the karmic situation of anything is an obstacle for even 10th bhumi bodhisattvas. Only Buddhas are free from that. But that is not really the reason why we don't act or we cannot truly benefit beings. So this is, I think, this question is good because here, let's see what's going on. So why does it say then that at least first bhumi, or the third of the 5 paths, path of seeing? Because when the path of seeing is achieved, then attachment to self has been overcome. One of the consequences of first bhumi is attachment to self is gone. Attachment to self is gone, but all-knowingness is not achieved. Right? So what this suggests to us is attachment to self is the greatest hindrance to truly being able to help others. Not so much not having all-knowingness. Between the two, the bigger hindrance is. So then what it means is, when we have really, or a great degree at least, let's say, you're like, I don't know what first bhumi is. Okay, then at least to a great degree, you have really put under control attachment to self. Then from there, even if you cannot see the complete picture and you try to help, even if something goes wrong, it won't go that wrong. Because self-clinging has already been kicked out. But as long as self-attachment and self-clinging has not been kicked out, and we try to help, and we try to help so decisively, if it goes wrong, it can go very wrong.
Because we are...
Hold on. Translators. Go ahead, Judy.
So even though we can't see the results, we are clearer about our own motivations. So
Exactly.
we therefore will respond perhaps differently, or most likely differently,
Yes.
from if we were totally confused
Yes.
about, okay.
And primarily confused as in our own agenda.
Got it.
Our ego clinging is there. So that's why, now we go back to why Kyopa Rinpoche says, the best thing you can do to benefit beings, if that's what you're so concerned about, is overcome first self-grasping. Yeah, so I think, again, the practical for me, not being on any boomies, only have heard rumors about these boomies. For me, the way to then, the take home lesson about these things about, oh, first boomy, this, 8 boomy, this, 10 boomy, that, right? For me, it's really then, the lesson for me, the take home lesson is like, whenever we're confronted in the situation that you think, oh, what should I do? Should I help? Should I not help? Or how can I help? And all of that, then to remember the lessons, the principles that are going on here in talking about, oh, first boomy this, 8 boomy this, 10 boomy this, is to say, there's a lot of things I don't know. And so I feel like, I don't even know where to help. But then the lesson from here is also, Kyopa Rinpoche says, first work on, removing self-grasping. So then I ask myself in this situation, what is my self-grasping? What is my agenda in this situation? What is my hidden intentions here? Are there any? So we can work on that, right? And say, also, so cautiously walking in terms of like knowing that as long as I'm not on the first boomy, probably hidden somewhere in there is my own self-grasping, my own attachment, aversion, being projected into this situation. So I need to be watchful of that. Then, to remember, there are so many things I cannot see in this situation. But at least with self-grasping held in check, with restraint, now let me do something that I think will help. Right? And then we see. So now let's read 55 to 58. With perfect and unyielding faith, with steadfastness, respect, and courtesy, with conscientiousness and awe, work calmly for the happiness of others. Let us not be downcast by the warring wants of childish persons quarreling. Their thoughts are bred from conflict and emotion. Let us understand and treat them lovingly. When acting irreproachably, for our sake or for the sake of others, let us always bear in mind the thought that we are selfless like an apparition. The supreme freedom of a human life, so long awaited, now at last attained. Reflecting always thus, maintain your mind as steady as Sumeru, king of mountains. So here, as I noted last time, I said Khenpo Kunpel's commentary uses these 4 verses to talk about what he identified as the 9 factors that are productive of virtue. So let's look at those 9 factors. These 9 factors are spread out throughout these 4 verses. So 6 of them in verse 55. So these 9 factors, the first factor is whatever practice we engage in, we should be clear about that practice. We should be clear about that practice. So this clarity is referring to so this is the equivalent of that first line, at least in English. I don't know in Spanish and Chinese, probably slightly different, but there's a mention of perfect and unyielding faith, right? So this faith that we're talking about here is more about confidence that you gain from knowing what is the principle of this practice. What is the main emphasis of this particular practice, this particular approach? What are the different parts? So meaning gain clarity about what we are doing, what we are practicing. So that's the first factors that are productive of virtue. Also related to this perfect and unyielding faith, the second factor is then, so what the first part is, making sure that you know how this practice, what it is, the details. Then having trust and confidence that it can help me is the second factor. Third factor is to be steadfast, to not give up so easily, not to be influenced by adverse circumstances, such as, illness arising, lack of food, or lack of, time, all things like this, to be steadfast. The next factor, here he identifies as we should approach the practice with joy and with respectful devotion. So here especially he identifies, he says you should respect those who are worthy of respect with regards to your Dharma training. So for the monks, especially the preceptors who gave them their precepts, then their masters that they are kind of associated with, and then the teachers who are teaching them Dharma. Having respect. It is to our own benefit. And at the beginning of the path, you need to think about your own benefit, okay? You should not worry so much first about other people. For our own benefit, we need to really think about how we relate to those whom we ourselves chose to be our teachers, right? Teachers didn't come and say, hey, you be my student. So we chose them to be teachers, right? Then we really need to be careful about that. It's like around with my teachers, even after all these years, now they have become, I've gotten familiar with them, but I'm careful not to be casual around them. Even if they are casual with me, I'm selfish, I'm just like, no, you want friends? You go look for friends somewhere else. You're my teacher. Yeah. So selfishly, I'm protecting why I'm relating to this person, Because if I become casual in relating to my teachers, then I have to navigate through, Oh, right now what he's saying, is that an instruction or is that just casual chit chat? Then what I should practice, I don't know. I should practice. I thought, oh, she just casually said, oh, do this. Or she just casually said, oh, read this. when in fact, that's important. But if we don't, like, this part of ego is going on. I can tell you that when a teacher is casual with me, then I think, oh, now I'm like in the inner circle. I can be casual. In the end, I lose. My purpose of relating to a Dharma teacher is thrown down the river. So in a way, to Dharma, the things that serious, if Dharma teachers are serious about what they say they want to be serious about, then you give up the idea that you're going to have friends. So he says, we should honor both physically and verbally. That means our actions that can be seen. It's not enough just in the mind, the actions that can be seen. Because the other thing is, you are going to affect, if you don't relate properly to the Dharma teachers, you are going to affect other people's. You're going to negatively impact other people's ability to properly relate to such a figure. Then the fifth point, the fifth factor, Khenpo Kumbel says, with regard to ourselves, we should have a sense of moral conscience, meaning ability to be ashamed, when we have done something negative. And with regard to others, namely our teachers and the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, we should feel a certain awe, a sense of awe to be in their presence. This is the respectful mind that he's talking about. So this part is about, at least the translation in English, it says, with conscientiousness and awe. He says, this is referring to this fifth factor. With our own conduct, we are careful about our ethical conduct. The awe is to be in awe when around our teachers. So even like in Chinese, there's a saying, the eyes of a dog, if with the eyes of the dog, then you will perceive everyone as lowly. Well, dogs are not very tall, you know, so they only see the feet. That's sort of the Chinese saying there, you know. So with the eyes of a dog, you will see everyone as lowly. Even Buddhas, you know, you will see as lowly. Don't be like that, in other words. The sixth factor is this calmly, peaceful. So he says, generally then, our senses, the five senses, should be pacified. Don't be so busy with the five senses. He says, we should be disciplined and calm. We should work quietly for the happiness of others. And he reminds us here, he says, you know, earlier on, Shantideva talked about how Bodhisattvas are dangerous objects. There's a couple of reasons, right? If you remember why bodhisattvas are dangerous objects. So here he's saying, we, now that we've taken the bodhisattva vow, we in a way have become dangerous objects. Meaning, in the terms of karma, you know, negativity directed towards a bodhisattva is very heavy. The negative karma that comes from doing something harmful towards a bodhisattva is very serious. So to prevent others from creating that kind of negative karma, with regards to us, we should be careful with how we conduct ourselves. Don't give others, don't set a trap for others, in other words, so that they create negative karma by criticizing us, by being jealous at us, or even like do things to stop us from our dharma activities. Don't create those situations for others to create great heavy karma. In that sense, you know, he says, hey, you are bodhisattva now, you are a dangerous object. this is so opposite of the way we normally operate, you know. The way we normally operate is like, you know, whenever we think I'm such a precious object, I'm such an important object, then we say to everyone, hey, 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 be careful, all of you, be careful, all of you, you know, coming through, you know, precious cargo, right? Everyone, you should watch out. Everyone, you should watch out. Shantideva here, you know, says the opposite. Recognizing now you are so precious, so you don't give other people a chance to accidentally bump into you. You should conduct yourself in such a way you won't provoke their jealousies. You won't provoke their criticism. You won't provoke their wrong views with regards to you as a bodhisattva. So this is a completely different way than we normally operate. Now, all of this, right, we apply to ourselves, right? Don't on the basis of now you know, now you're armed with this knowledge, you know, then you go check everyone. That bodhisattva there, doing all kinds of things to make me jealous. Not a very good bodhisattva. So easy, you know, when we are so easy for us to turn, you know, medicine into poison. Poison can be turned into medicine. But when medicine turns into poison, then finish. With skill, yes, poison can be turned into medicine. But without skill, without mindfulness, so often, you know, medicine turns into poison. So for now, we need to be watchful of not letting medicine turn into poison. Yeah, so now let's take a break, a short break, and then we'll come back and finish this section. By the way, again, a reminder, at the beginning of the course I mentioned, so this is one traditional commentary that is available. It's the commentary by Khenpo Kunzang Pelden, Khenpo Kunpel, who was a student of the Nyingma Lama Petru Rinpoche. And so this has been translated into Western languages now. Wage Jore Mum 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 Wage Jore 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 Wage Jore Mum Wage Jore
wage joare mum, 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 wage joare wage joare mum, 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 wage
So now, verse 56. So this verse 56, it says, "Let us not be downcast by the warring wants of childish persons quarreling." So all the conflict, that we experience either directly or indirectly, this is one way to look at that, the warring wants of childish persons quarreling. For most of us, of course, not all of us, If I was teaching this in some very troubled areas in the world today, then, it's a little bit harder to talk like this. But of course, this is all based on perspective. If you were a first Bhumi Bodhisattva or eighth Bhumi, even the greatest problems in the world, from that perspective, they are warring wants of childish persons quarreling. But never mind, leave aside that. All I'm saying is, like, for you and me, for the most part, what we encounter that we think is such a big deal, such a big matter, Shantideva says, these are all the result of childish persons quarreling over different likes and dislikes. So the connotation of childish here is basically immature. So the factor, this next factor, factor 7, is not to be dismayed, not to be disappointed when in our pursuit of virtue, in our practice of the Bodhisattva path. Don't be dismayed by the people that we're trying to help, or the people that we're in a situation with are fighting amongst themselves, because we should see that these are basically the various likes and dislikes that have arisen due to individuals having different karmas, different conditionings. So understanding that, do not be dismayed, do not be disappointed, but understand that what you're witnessing is the result of these afflictive emotions, and then treat all the people involved lovingly, like loving children. So Kempo Kumbel says, he says, given that, people have their own likes and dislikes, given that, he says, when we practice the way of the Bodhisattva, so I'm quoting from him, some people will be delighted and full of praise, while others will be displeased and critical. But he says, we should not be affected by whether praise or criticism of this type. "57. When acting irreproachably for our sake or the sake of others, let us always bear in mind the thought that we are selfless, like an apparition." So this verse, right, is introducing the wisdom aspect more directly into how we should kind of handle the difficult situations that arise. So here he says, so in terms of our actions, we should do our best so that they are irreproachable. That means we should do our best so that we give people very little reason to criticize, to disagree. Of course, with the footnote, already he says, in the end, there will still be people doing that. But you cannot only excuse that, people like what they like, they don't like what they like, I don't care, I just do what I like. That's not Shantideva's recommendation. That is what we might be tempted to say, some people like, some people don't like, I don't care, I just do what I like. Shantideva said, no. You are now a bodhisattva, you are now a dangerous object. So you have to do your best, he says, to act in such a way that you are not so susceptible to being criticized, to being condemned. But then, even when you're doing that, whether for your sake or for others' sake, and Kempo Kumpel gives the example, he says, for example, how you eat, or how you donate food to others, or how you receive teachings, or how you give teachings to others. He says, these are good things, necessary things. Make sure you do it in such a way that you don't cause, or you don't give people opportunity to create negative karma when they criticize you, when they condemn you, things like that. But even when you're doing that, he says, always don't forget that this is like a dream. This is like an apparition, meaning something conjured up, something that just manifests temporarily. That we are selfless. We don't have essence. Everything is interdependently arising. So in other words, also, don't get proud that I'm irreproachable, I'm doing everything good. It says, relax. Don't get caught up in that. I'm such a good person. I'm so blameless. He said, no, don't do that. The ninth factor is the factor that basically says recognizing the great fortune that we have now, given this human life that we have now turned into the Bodhisattva's way of life. Recognizing this, rejoicing in this, remain firm in this joy, in this conviction, like Mount Meru. Don't be swayed so easily. Don't be distracted. Don't be derailed. Stay firm. Yeah, so this last verse is good, to remember this. Sometimes we get distracted, by the things that we don't like. And then we become downcast. Then we underestimate ourselves. And say, no, I cannot do, So this reminder, verse 58, this supreme freedom of a human life, so long awaited, now at last attained. And here, a mere human life is not yet supreme. It's the human life that has the 10 endowments and the 8 freedoms. Gist of the 10 endowments and 8 freedoms is that we have everything that we need to practice Dharma, to experience Dharma, and to actualize the Dharma in our own lives. Given this central fact, then everything else that arises that is disagreeable can be put into their right context, which is mostly inconsequential. Now, when we say mostly inconsequential, don't misunderstand. Don't think like you can just wake up one day and declare, they're inconsequential. Then they becomes inconsequential. You have to be determined to reduce them to being inconsequential. It doesn't magically happen, So we need to develop, this this state of mind, this attitude, saying, no, you not important, 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 you know. Yeah, okay, so let's see. Any questions or comments?
Dr. Lee, there is a question in the chat room.
Sure.
So Antonio asks, to be vigilant of no creating conditions for others' negative karma to ripen, to be aspiring of creating conditions for others' positive karma to ripen. It's a question related when you were talking about how we should have the vision to avoid to create negative conditions for
Yes.
the rest.
Yes. Yes, indeed. Yes, correct.
Sí, en el...
Especially those of us who are, I would suppose all of us that are here, more or less, who are attracted to Tibetan Buddhism. There's always all these fantastical stories about crazy wisdom, you know. Then we think, oh, you know, this is how we should act. Act crazy, you know. Be scandalous because, you know, we can shock people into, you know, wisdom. Well, you know, I suppose if you want to do it that way, you could try and see what happens. But Shantideva here is teaching something else.
Dr. Lai, may
Yes.
I know what is the question?
Oh, the question is just not really a question. It's just Claudia just read in the chat. If you see, there's a comment in the chat. Claudia just read that comment, and I say, yes, of course, correct. Yeah. In this day and age, there are new challenges and new advantages. So with the world and connectivity and media and social media, all of that, the advantage is right now, you know, like we are all in different parts of the world. All we have to do is click, you know, and here we are. We can spend some time, hopefully, learning something positive. Yeah. So those are some of the clear advantages from the Dharma perspective, that we living in the present have these types of advantages. Then from the perspective of this specific issue, the disadvantages is also the fact that everything, is so available and travels so quickly. So what I mean by that is like, especially like for teachers who are training students, again, putting aside charlatan teachers, teachers who are taking advantage to be teachers, all put aside all those, even genuine teachers, wanting, using ways to help students. The problem with the currently is that when a teacher does or say certain things that is specific to a particular student and their situation, their scenario, and the teacher acting a certain way, talking a certain way, that quickly then becomes public knowledge. Then it's out there. Then everybody thinks, oh yeah, that's how it should be, or that's, when it's not, it's specific to a situation, but it has become, a social media post. Call?
Yeah, so Dr. Lai, I think it's also a warning for us, people who try to practice Vajrayana to be a bit careful, I guess, when it comes to the things that we do, especially because, I live in a Theravadan country. So I used to use alcohol for different stuff, and so one time I got a criticism like, yeah, you use alcohol, and
Yes.
what kind of Buddhism are you worshiping? And
Yes.
what kind of Buddhism are you following? And from that, it was a comment from actually my mom. And then I was like, okay, I'd better not use it. And then from that time on, I've been using black tea. So I think we should be a bit more careful, especially when actually in my position, that is.
Yes. Yes, I agree. The interpreters, you all can hear that question, comment? Yeah, so go ahead. Now I understand. When the main room, anybody speaks, interpreters can hear. But when interpreters speak, the other interpreters cannot hear. Okay. So with regards especially, exactly, we have to really see, our context. So like, for example, at the Urban Dharma Temple in downtown Asheville here, if you go into the center, you will see that there's barely any image, tanka or painting or anything of like wrathful deities or naked deities. Yes, for your Vajrayana, you have those images, you practice with that. But in any case, especially Vajrayana in India, it's mostly a secret tradition. It's like you don't expose these things to others because it will cause more misunderstanding and harm than good. Also specifically, Kong, I can also say, it is said that Pamodrupa and therefore Jidesumgun, both of them, even in talk, Vajrayana ritual talk, Ganachakra, where it says, oh, use alcohol, they did not use alcohol, they used yogurt. So this is the example set by our Kagyu, early Kagyu masters. Yogurt mixed with brown sugar, it says. Other questions or comments? Yeah, if not, today we will stop here and we will continue on Saturday. Jesper, if you're there, can you pull up the Amitabha aspiration, the usual short one that we do? Kong, can you share with us the name of your grandmother? Kong's grandmother recently passed away in Myanmar. So, of course, right now, with COVID and all that, many people succumb to that, and then other people directly or indirectly. So we do this Amitabha dedication to all those we know, we don't know, we're directly connected with, indirectly connected with. So another name is, so in the chat, type another name. Rinchen Yangdo. this is one of my friends. This is Drupal. Some of you met Drupal Punso. He was at the Tibetan Meditation Center in Maryland for a couple of 2-3 years, a few years. And then I came to Urban Dharma once, and this is his mother, recently passed. So other people too, if you have names for people, you can type in the chat, you know. Kathy Nelson just shared another name, Bill Olson. So you all can put the name there. Yeah, Mrs. Lai, so Manuel is another name. Fernando just shared that. Leonard shared a name, Mrs. Lai Kuan Yu. She was actually my teacher when I was in high school. She was a history teacher. Both she and her husband were very active in supporting Dharma. Her husband was also a teacher at another school, and he was the advisor of a Buddhist students' Buddhist society. And I think among his students, maybe 20 of them have gone on to become monks. For those of you who don't know, Leonard put St. Xavier's. He's not asking you to pray for the saint. He's giving the name of the school. Oh, you could pray for the saint too. Yes, of course. Jasper, are you there? Maybe he only looks like he's there. Yeah, he only looks like he's there. Anybody else has the Amitabha aspiration that you can share screen?
In English and Tibetan, or?
Yeah. This is simple, the phonetics.
Only the phonetics?
Well, whatever, mainly we need to chant together, so that's my point. Most of you are familiar with this Amitabha dedication. So it can be in Spanish translation as long as the phonetics are there. We're starting to see something. Ah, okay. Yeah. Sa sanje namwa thaye thang yesu jobo tuje chenpo thang yondu senpa tuje to namla sanje changsan pame korgi kor neki ngusar padu me pa ye deva chinse shawe shinkam te Dani tine tsebo gyu mata kewa shinji parma joparu Neru kene nante shetun sho deke dagi monlam tapadi Choju sanje changsen tamche ki keme drupa jinji labdu so Teyata penza driya ava bodhanaya soha maho ngosar sanje nangwa taye dang yesu chobo tuje chenpo dang yondu senpa tu chento namla sanje chang senpa me gur ki gur Degi ngosa pang tu me pa ye deva chen she shao we shin kam der da shen di ne tse po gyu mar ta ke wa sen ji bar ma chu baru de ru ke ne nang te shao tong sho de ke da gi mon lam ta pa di Choju sanje changsen tam che ge ge me drupa jinji lam tu so Teya da benja driya awa bodhanaya so ma ho ngosar sanje nawa taye dang yesu jobo tuje chenpo dang Yondu senpa tuje to namla sanje changsen pa me kurgi go Degi ngosa pak tu me pa ye deva chen se shawe shin kam ter Da shen di ne tse po gyur ma ta ke wa sen ji bar ma chu paru Deru gene nang de shao tong sho de ge da gi mon lam ta pa di jo ju san je chang sen tam je gi geng me ru pa jin ji lab tu so Taya ta ben ja driya awa bodhanaya so Changju Semju Rinpoche Ma Ge Panam Ge Gyuji Ge Pa Nyam Pa Me Ba Ya Go Ne Gong Du Power Show. Antonio, can you share the screen again? Let me point out something. The same, the Amitabha dedication. Okay. So here, write down here, da ni dine tsepo gyurmata. Yeah. Da ni dine tsepo gyurmata. Here. This line. This line, if you translate, it's saying, when when the time comes for me to pass. So when we chant for others, we say dak shen. Shen is others. Shen, dak shen. So when I and others pass from this life, so you can modify that to dak shen dinetsebo gyurmata. Then it becomes, for self and others. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. So in the chat, a few other names have been added. So dedicate this to others. Also, in a name that is not here, a friend in Malaysia, her mother passed away, and the friend is Bao Zhu. She is the president of a center that I'm associated with in Malaysia. His Holiness had asked me to go help teach there. And so Bao Zhu's mother also passed away. What Leonard shared is a document which is Kyoba Jiten Sumgun's Sukhavati aspiration prayer. That aspiration prayer was originally supposed to have been composed by Nagarjuna. And then it is found in the works of Kyoba Rinpoche as well. So Kyoba Rinpoche sometimes is called the second Nagarjuna in Tibet. He's seen as like a significant emanation of Nagarjuna. So then it is said also to have been adapted by Kyoba Rinpoche, these words. This particular version in any case. So if you look at the original Nagarjuna composition, it looks very similar. So then those of you who are familiar with the Amitabha Sutra, so especially those of you familiar in the Chinese tradition of what's known as the Lesser Amitabha Sutra, meaning shorter Amitabha Sutra, Xiaomi Tojing. If you're familiar with the content of the sutra, you'll see that this aspiration prayer ultimately comes from that text. Sometimes even exact words and expression it comes from there. So we recently got this translated into English, so happy to share with everyone this aspiration. So see all of you
會聽嘅好收你會聽。
Saturday. Ta-ta.
你翻譯的東西我們沒有聽到。
It's okay for now. We'll fix next week. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Saturday.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Yes, yes. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good night.
Thank you,
Bye.
Dr.
Good day, good night.
Thank you, Dr. Lee.
Bye,
Thank you, Dr. Lee.
Ta.
Dr. Lee.